Hey, everybody. So today's topic is how to always know why you don't have the results you want and what exactly you need to do to get it. So I want to talk to you about that and then we're going to coach. So, one of the questions in the daily work, question 3 and question 4, is when you write about your goal, what objections come up? What doubts, what uncertainties, what objections, right? Because what will happen is if we tell our brain something, there's this really interesting thing that it does where it like argues. And what arguing might feel like is if you say to yourself, I have $1 million in the bank, but that's not true, you're going to feel something. It might be like a tightness in your body. It might be like, right, you're either going to feel it in your body or your brain's going to be like, I don't know about that, right? Either one can happen. And so I talk a lot this week about feelings, but for all of you who are like, I don't know how to feel feelings yet, that's okay, right? Like that's how it works. Everybody is actually a feeler. The people who categorize as non-feelers have just learned how not to feel to protect themselves. And so, as I invite you and do these different exercises with feelings, if you don't feel them yet, that's okay. That's part of it. So, question 3 and 4 is about you coming into your mind and finding the things your brain doesn't believe. But there's another element of it, and it's what I call skimming off the top. Because sometimes the stuff you need to skim out of your brain has nothing to do with that goal. It has to do with your overall business and the stuff that's happening in your business. And those might be fears about money. It might be thoughts about yourself as a coach. It might be any of those types of things. And so you have to come in and skim them off the top to see what's happening. So I created this very beautiful, elaborate drawing for you. You like how I validate myself with how beautiful it is? And so here's what your journey to your goal is going to look like. Now, what you might have thought it was going to look like, right? Here's what we think. We're like, I'm going to start here and then I'm going to get here. And the way that's going to look is I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to create one client every week for the next 52 weeks. And obviously it's going to work. There's not going to be any problems. That's what we think is going to happen when we set the goal. And then here's what really it looks like. So here's you starting out. And then here's your path. You're like, and then here's you right now. And I wanted to make sure you knew this, right? Because sometimes what we think is that we're still over here. Our brain's like, yeah, but I don't have the goal yet. Therefore, I must still be at the beginning. But you're not. You're in the middle of having the thing you want. You're in the middle of getting there. But you don't, right? And the reason we say the middle is because you don't know where you're at. But when we know that it doesn't take time, we know that you could fill that void like that. Or you could take a long time. So this was the other thing I wanted to put in here. So writing this out was kind of interesting because when it got done, it kind of looked like Christmas lights and then spikes and all sorts of strange stuff. But ultimately, we have all these little dots, okay? And what these dots are their obstacles. And I made a list here of obstacles because I didn't want to come to this call and tell you that the only obstacle you were going to ever face is your thoughts. It's actually kind of true. And it's a lot simpler when you think of it that way. But thoughts are also categorized into like a higher level of what kind of thoughts. Okay. And so when you know what kind of thoughts to look for, you can categorize them in different ways. So those might be not hitting your goal. You set a goal and then you didn't hit it. And so what did you have? You had some thoughts, you had some feelings. But right here, step one, although step one was probably, oh my gosh, I need a website. I need a niche. I don't know who I serve. I don't, right? It was probably freaking out more like that. But those are going to be the different types of things, right? Your obstacles are going to be things like setting, but not hitting a goal. Maybe setting and not hitting a goal like 10 times. Not learning. You guys, an obstacle to you creating the results you want is that you don't learn from yourself. You don't stop long enough to learn what worked so that you could continue with new information. This is such an easy one for doers and hard workers to do because the thing that keeps drawing them to like rush faster is that, okay, I need to get in front of more people. I need to try something else, right? I was doing webinars, but now I need to do this other thing. I was doing Facebook ads, but now maybe I need to do them with another person, or maybe I need a whole new funnel. Maybe it was believing that your niche was wrong. And so instead of figuring out how to market and sell inside of your niche, you jump to another niche, and now you have to learn how to do everything all over again because you just started over instead of figuring out the one problem. It's always thoughts, but it's thoughts to stop you doing the normal things in business that are going to happen, right? And so when you don't learn from yourself, this becomes an obstacle. So each of these dots is an obstacle, right? So it's like, in order for you to go through this very first dot, you had to go through this dot to get to the next one. And so right now, every obstacle that comes up in question 3 is a thought that's stopping you from getting access to the next obstacle. Because you guys, I got some news for you. It doesn't actually ever stop, right? Like, you're not going to stop having obstacles. When you hit a goal, when you grow in your business, the version of you who had a $50,000 business and had $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 business, you're just going to have different problems. And so you have to know so deeply why you want to have problems and why you want to have obstacles and why you want it to be hard, so that you know why you're going to be willing to keep doing it. Otherwise, you're not. You're going to stop. You'll be like, what am I doing this for? I don't have any good reason. So you don't get to know what the next obstacle is until you finish the one you're in. And you basically are staying inside of an obstacle, right? So if this is the thought, I need a website before, but I don't know how to build a website and I don't have money, you don't get to move through to become this person until you solve for this obstacle. So instead, what you do is you sit here and wait. But what a lot of you guys are doing, and I think I've talked about this every day, is you see that obstacle of I need a website, or I need to get in front of more people, or my funnel's broken, as a thing to solve. And so you spend your time solving problems that were thought problems. I'm not saying every problem is a thought problem, but the minute you see that it's a thought problem truly, then you get to come at it and look at, like, how do I want to solve this, knowing how do I want to approach this, knowing that the only real problem is that I'm thinking it's a problem. So the perfect example of this is overwhelm, right? You have a thought like, I have so much to do, and you write down like 6 things, and it feels really true. And so the solution seems like it would be to get started, get the stuff done, but it's not. First, you have to stop, and you have to see that the only problem is that you are believing a thought like, I have to get all this done. And then you're feeling overwhelmed and panicky in your body. And then you're approaching and doing everything from that place, rather than saying, okay, I'm thinking this thought. I do have these 6 things that I want to get done, but these 6 things are neutral, and I could actually not do them. Like, there'd be a consequence, and I don't know that I want that, but I don't have to do them. And I don't have to categorize them as a lot. I want to do them, right? So notice how what I just did is I neutralized it. I took it from like, I have so much to do and it feels panicky and overwhelmed, to I have 6 things to do. I want to get them done today. I want to. So often we're like, I have to. And it's like, yeah, but I didn't. So clearly I don't have to. But then from that place, you can come at, okay, how do I want to get these things done? How do I make this work? And for me, it was coming to the place, how do I get it done and not feel panicky, not feel pressure? How do I get it done and feel calm? Now, calm isn't always the emotion that's going to drive you to get something done, but like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I felt calm and I did not get my work done. I'm like, why? Probably because I felt calm. Like, I need to feel something else. I need to feel compelled. I need to feel love. Oh, that's a good one. Love actually does help me feel compelled, but it's like that driven feeling. Okay. So it's like you don't get to find out. And the longer you try and solve problems without knowing that how it's a thought problem, is the longer they each take. So you're here, and there's going to be more of these little dots all the way to your goal. And those dots are revealed in question 3. What are my obstacles? What am I skimming off the top? That's what your little dots are. And they fall under umbrellas like not hitting your goals, not learning from yourself, comparing yourself to others, looking outside of yourself for validation, forgetting your long-term why, right? It's easy to be like, well, I want a client this week, but you forget why. What's the bigger picture? Why are you doing this? Having habit, thoughts, and feelings, right? Having your patterns and the normal business happening. Normal business is that your business doesn't take care of you right away. That's normal. Normal business is that clients quit. Normal business is that you don't get it right the first time. Normal business is that you have to learn how to market. Normal business is that you have to learn how to sell. Normal business is what we forget when we coach, because a lot of times coaches aren't thinking of themselves as entrepreneurs. They aren't thinking of themselves as a business person who has to go through the same types of normal stuff as a business. Okay. So this is your map. This is how you know what your obstacles are, and you don't get the next obstacle. You don't get the next like awareness until you stop believing it. So the way you know you're doing question 3 and 4 right is because you get done and you feel different. Because you're able to approach it from the place of like, this is a thought, right? Because then you're going to start being like, oh my gosh, I can save so much more time when I stop trying to solve every problem my brain gives me as a problem, instead of like, how is this a thought problem? How can I approach this? Like, what would be different if I didn't believe this was true? Because that's in step 4 when you neutralize it. And then you get to go to work quicker because you're not in that wait hold period of figuring it out. Let me just make sure I made notes, but then I never looked at them, obviously. Forget I even make notes. Here's the other part. I did miss something. And it's like, you want to love this path, because there is no like, I'm going to hurry up and get through this and then feel better on the other end. It's, you have to love this now. You have to love where you're at, the thing you're experiencing, the thing you're figuring out on the way to getting your goal. Because if you don't learn to love the process of this, if you don't learn to love figuring out your marketing, speaking to your people, making offers, how you think about yourself, how you like think about yourself as an entrepreneur, thinking about your people that they have money, all of those things, focusing on them instead of you, catching yourself when you compare yourself, and learning to bring yourself back in quicker. If you don't see each of those as just part of the game, you're going to resent it. You're going to like try and resist it and like buckle down and like, it hurts, but I'm going to do it because I only have to do it for so long. But that's not how it works. It's like you're going to keep doing the same thing over again. And unless you learn how to do this cycle in a way that feels in a way you want to feel, you're going to only know how to do it with pressure and overwhelm and anxiety and all the emotions. So you're literally learning how to do the same thing differently so that you can keep doing it. Otherwise, your brain's going to be like, man, yeah, I made 100,000, but I pushed, I hustled, and I don't want to do that again. And then your brain's like, then I don't know how to do it because I'm not willing to do that to make 200,000. But when you do it with the mind and you learn how to shape how you feel first, then you get to, it becomes easy to do it. You're like, oh, that wasn't hard at all. I just went through a bunch of obstacles. I learned how to do them faster and faster. And I created the result that I wanted. So loving that process is important. So I want to see what kind of questions are coming up, and we can coach on these, but I also want to see it in the Q&A. What kind of questions are coming up as you're doing your work? As you're doing the daily work, where are you running into questions, issues? What's coming up for you? Let's see. Best doodle ever. I know, right? Let's see. Yep. Jenny says, what are your thoughts on picking a niche? How important is it? I mean, I think that it's a thought. It's a decision, right? It's like, how important is picking a husband? It's just a choice. Some people are like, yeah, I switch those out all the time. Some people are like, I never do. I think it's just people have neutral circumstance, which is the niche, and then they make a big deal. So I think you just decide, this is what I do. But it's helpful to have one because you practice marketing, but it's also helpful if you have thoughts about it. So I think you do the thing you have the least amount of drama. Just like when my clients are like, oh, I'd really like to charge this, but this price here feels like no drama. Perfect. You have enough things you need to figure out drama. You need to work through your drama on. Don't try and charge more and work your mind there. Charge what you feel comfortable with, work your mind in the other places, and create the clients in the business. Candy says, I'm challenged with getting connected with my hard why. Maybe you're just overcomplicating it. Might be like, what if it was just really simple? What if it was simple why you want your business? That might be something to raise your hand and coach with. I don't know. There is a Candy with her hand raised, but I don't know if it's you. Terry says, today I had a hard time feeling the possibility of my goal in my mind and body. Okay. Did you go slowly? I would make it non-negotiable. Like, I don't stop trying to feel possibility until I feel it. I don't move on from the question because it's the feeling that's the most important, not the inevitability of the goal, right? But that is part of it. Like, the possibility is that it's inevitable. And that might be the other thought that I have is like, if I don't figure out how to do it inside of this time period that I set, I'm going to stop. I'm going to learn for myself and I'm going to figure out how to do it. No matter what, I'm going to sign a client. It's totally possible it happens now and it's inevitable. What if I'm not really having any objections or doubts? Keep looking for them. Great question, Lisa. So I think, have you created the result you want? Because there's this really fun thing that our brain does, which it's like it goes to a very low drama mode. And it's like, yeah, no, there's no problem. But the problem is you don't have the result you want yet. And so if you don't have the result you want, I'm not saying you have to like find problems, but your awareness inside of what's happening might need to be a little bit more heightened. And so the daily evaluation might be a good place for you to look and say, what patterns am I seeing? What's the other part you might want to do is like zoom out. What's at the top of my mind that I need to just skim out? What if you set the goal for signing a client today? Does that change it? What does your brain say about that, right? That's, you want to just practice. Like, the goal is here as a container to bring the junk up. And that's why if we set a 30-day goal, your brain's like, I've got time. This is no big deal. I feel totally great about this. I can totally do this. But when you move it down into a week, your brain's like, wait, what? My brain, Tuesday of the week's always like, yeah, this is never going to happen. I don't have enough time. I'm like, wait a minute. Time passing doesn't create clients. So practice playing with the timing, practice looking outside of the goal and seeing what overall in your business is on your mind. All of those things will help you to find the objections and doubts to put in number 3. Paige, how do I stay in belief when I keep coming across obstacles, solving those thought problems, and then still not reaching my goal? The way that you stay in belief is by understanding that it's normal and that's part of the process, right? Like, your brain's trying to say, because I didn't hit my goal, therefore I shouldn't believe I'm going to hit my goal. But I want you guys, I think I used this example yesterday, but it's like somebody who wants to have a baby, they try and do it naturally. They try IVF, they try adoption, they try surrogate mothering, they try stealing. No, I don't know. I've never heard anybody do that, but right? Like, I want you to think about, Paige, with your goal is, it's like, this is just the thing I'm trying, but this is why it's so important to, your belief is your first job, but then the other part of it is learning from yourself so that every day it's like, yeah, I'm just getting better and better. I'm tweaking what I'm doing. I think weight loss is a really a great example of this. It's like, nobody sets a goal to, well, you might, to lose 10 pounds and then you lose 5 and then you gain it back and you're like, this will never work. This doesn't work. Nothing works. Right? And you're like, well, I solved for all those thoughts, but you didn't. Right? Like, even with losing 10 pounds, you might change habits. You might say, I'm showing up consistently. I'm eating these good foods. I stopped snacking. But the reality is there's something there that you're still doing as a habit that just needs tweaked. And so when you can come at that from a place of like, there's something I'm missing, I have to find it, right? This is like this urgent energy. Or you can just be like, okay, here's what I'm going to try next. Right? So it's the difference in how we approach it. Like, something has gone wrong versus this is totally normal. Like, learning to lose 10 pounds is like learning to create a client. I'm going to try some things. Sometimes it's going to work really quick. And other times I'm going to run into all the ways that my mind is behaving. Debbie says, how do you see if you have something else hidden behind a thought you're believing? I don't know that you try and overcomplicate it like that, right? It's like, is there more? There's always more. Like, what if you just expect There's always more. And that's not a bad thing. Because otherwise, what you get done is like you get into this idea where you're like, well, because sometimes people market this way and it's like there's something hidden and you know it's there, but you just can't find it. I can help. But really, when you're like, yeah, there's always something else there. And what I'm doing is I'm just practicing seeing what I see and going out and doing and coming back and seeing. Because your action and your goals, they bring up the junk. And when you're just practicing being aware and you're not like in a rush because it has to happen fast, right? That creates that energy again. Then it gets to just happen. And you're like, yeah, I see where it's at. I see what I'm creating. Kristen, I'm having an issue finding all the obstacle thoughts in my own head. This is what I want to get coached on. My brain likes to hide them. Same thing I just told Debbie, right? Like you think you're playing hide and seek, but really your job is to believe. That's what we're going to talk about in tomorrow's training, the specific areas to believe. But your job is to believe and then just keep cleaning up the other stuff, not trying to become some scavenger hunter who's like, it's lost and I must find it. This is my magnifying glass. My magnifying glass. Right? So it's like doing that kind of thing is going to be a distraction to you believing and loving your business and showing up and focusing on others to serve. You can get lost in your own mind. We don't want that. Okay, we're going to do just a couple more. Maritza, what do you do when you find yourself not loving this path, especially when you were first starting to make money? You just decide to relove it. Basically, what you just told me is what happens when I get my kid grows up and they're 16 and they don't like me anymore and they don't really listen and they're rude. What do I do then? What do I do when I look up and at my husband and I'm like, actually, I just don't feel those feelings for him anymore? Now, there's an entire group of people who are going to say, well, obviously, you abandoned the 16-year-old and you divorced the husband. But the solution is that this is just neutral. Your business, the path it takes, you have to decide to love it. This is when you realize that nothing has gone wrong, right? You didn't fall out of love with your husband. You forgot to think thoughts about him. You didn't stop feeling connected to him because of him. You stopped feeling creating thoughts of connection. Same thing with a teenager, right? And that's why you have to know why you want to do it. For me, I love the growth. It would be just as uncomfortable to stay in the same level than it would to be to keep going. So I'm like, I might as well just keep going. I might as well just keep pushing myself. I might as well just keep feeling that growth. And I think to myself, I could stop whenever I wanted. Why would I want to? And then I have a vision of the people I'm helping. And that drives me. And the other thing that will make it easier, you guys, is this path here, you're learning how to go through it faster. So 2 years ago, it took me 12 months to create $120,000. This year, I've created it in 3 months. So you're learning how to do this stuff and move through it faster. And you don't have the same problems. You have slightly different ones. Leslie says, what if I'm not good enough? Is a consistent thought. Like, how can I take someone's money if I don't know all the answers? Yeah, that's going to be really good for tomorrow because the thought I'm not good enough is a thought. And what I love about group coaching is everybody here probably thinks some variation of that thought. And so you have to build specific thoughts. Right now, you just don't have belief in yourself or in what you're selling. Some area of the gap is missing. And it's very simple. You just build the belief. You find the things you do believe and you practice thinking them. I had to do this. I call it brainwashing ourselves because we are, but I had to do this, right? I had to sit down and create a list of all the things I could currently believe. And then I recorded it on my phone. I read through it. I put music to it. So it created some emotion. But I had to teach my brain what I wanted to think. And they were things like, who I am today is enough to help somebody who's further behind on the journey. My tools can solve any problem. Because my fear was that I was going to get on the phone and that they were going to ask me a question that I didn't know what to do with. And I had to learn to think like there's nothing that I can't handle. The model solves everything. Right? So you're going to find those doubts and fears, and then you're going to find thoughts you believe, and you're going to brainwash yourself. See, Kristen says, what tricks can I use to find more obstacle thoughts? Keep doing the daily work. And here's what else you do: set goals, hit them and don't hit them, and take action. Decide you want to do things. Because inside of the action, not a ton of action, not like, stay really busy. But when you set the goal and you do it, you find the junk that comes up with it. I've set goals of getting a client before and I haven't achieved it. So it's been challenging to shift the thought. Yeah. Because now, Carolyn, what you also have is a thought: I've done it before and it didn't work. So then why would I do it again? And you have to know the answer to that. Why would I do it again? Because right now you're thinking the goal is what matters. But when we focus on the goal, it's like staring at the sun. It hurts. And so you have to focus on all the things that have to come together: who you're going to become, how you're going to think, what has to change to get the goal. And then you just focus in that area. When I've set the goal of creating $1 million business, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what the package structures were going to look like. I didn't know how many people I would serve. I didn't know how much I would charge. None of that. That was okay, because I just decided everything I did know. And I wrote the list. This is the type of things that I would do and think and feel and habits when I have that goal. And I focused only on that. And I became that person little by little. And so inevitably, my goals, I just keep creating them because it's a part of something bigger and because I'm not just obsessing about the goal. I think that's the other part about the daily work, is you have to be careful you're not obsessing about the goal, because it's not about the goal. Carolyn, you're going to hit the goal and then you know what's going to happen? You're going to set another one. And so it's not about the goal. It's about you learning to be the person who has the goal. Danita says, the only daily work I struggle with is the evaluation, figuring out what I was feeling throughout the day. My thought is that I've gotten good at getting to neutral. I'm not feeling a lot of negative emotion and not a lot of positive emotion. The other explanation is that my normal feeling, commitment, determination, curiosity, are in the neutral realm for me. Any recommendations? I would say if you're hitting your goals, I wouldn't worry about it, right? Don't try and like make problems where there aren't any. But this is like somebody who is doing a food diary. They're gonna do it and they're gonna say, oh, look at that, I didn't create the result that I wanted. Where can I come in and tweak? And so your daily evaluation is going to show you those things. They're going to show you the patterns. It's going to show you like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling these feelings. Maybe that, right? Like for me, I'm like, calm doesn't help me get things done. And sometimes I need to get things done. So yes, I want to feel calm, but I need just slight variation from it. Okay, let's see. Karen says, I'm afraid to even set the goal because keeping my word to myself and to others is so important to me. I worry what will happen if I don't hit the goal. You need to answer for yourself, Karen. Really, what will happen? You're going to feel an emotion and identify what that emotion is going to be. It's probably going to be disappointment, guilt, shame, something like that. But the worst thing that's going to happen is you are going to feel an emotion. And so it's great to not let other people down, but it's also fascinating to see how often we let ourselves down at the cost of not letting other people down. And so it's possible that whatever emotion you would feel then, that there's some level of you that already feels it. Okay.